Peace, 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 and love. This is Chiva Tao, and I am back with another tool for your toolkit. I am going to continue our beautiful discussion of the unfolding of your new lives. So please check in. Shouts out to the HOC and Fairy Gang. Shouts out to the gang. Dark Lordism family is in the building. Peace and welcome. What's up, Jay Johns? Hey, Waking Venus. For those of you who this may be your first time seeing a video like this, understand that it will be my audio. There are special reasons why, all right? But it's important that you get this information so that you are prepared for your continuous work in creating your lives at an optimal level. All right. One of the things that I'm going to discuss with you today, as you'll see in the title of the video, is the power of initiation. So I'm going to get right to it. Peace, y'all. What's up, Cornelia? Hey, Shannon. What's up, Red Nappy Summer? Peace, Precious Gift. Hi, Kadian. Hi, Christina. What's up, Ivy Wholeness? Peace, Karu of Light. So, what has been coming forth? All right. Especially, I've been naming these videos Spirituality 101, Spirituality 103. Now it's Spirituality Part 3. Just so you can follow the format. I probably will change them to Part 1, Part 2, so that when they're on a playlist, you can go back and follow it. All right? So, you all participated in your own form of, not just your own form, right? But outside of a system, a religious system, you participated in a form of initiation. And for those of you who hung tight from the beginning all the way until its culmination, one of the major components you would have received is that you had to tap into a certain level of power within yourself to follow through, to combat all obstacles that came in your way in order to complete the coursework that you were doing. And you had to realize parts of yourself that you don't normally utilize in your everyday lives. So some things that are always going to be like woven through parts of initiation is that you have to be tried, and you have to be tried in a way that you're being held accountable, not only to yourself where no one's looking, but you're being held accountable to those around you who you've made the commitment publicly that you would complete this work. There is a lot of loopholes created. There are, pardon me, a lot of loopholes created in the new age trendy saga or series of life. And one of those loopholes is the idea that one can and should initiate themselves into their own spiritual practice. Okay? Now, this video is not about tearing that theory down. What I like to do is always focus on the benefits of what exists from time's beginning and what exists in a way that has been successful for one system or traditions to travel the world globe-wide. I always want to focus on success. So rather than pointing out or being wasteful in energy to point out what could be wrong with someone else's practice, I want to focus on what can absolutely work and be powerful and be right because it's proven itself time and time again. Okay? So one of the things that, or themes that is consistent in initiation is that there is a person or persons in place with a level of authority gained not just through themselves as an individual, but has been gained through their life's work, their dedication, the sacrifices that they've made in their lives, and the approval and recognition of those who have once sat in places that they looked up to, and for those around as far as the community to say yes, that this individual has met certain marks, um, and they have put forth services that have been of benefit to everyone they've come into contact with. Are you following? If you're following, press ones. Let me see that you're following along so far. All right. A few examples of this is that if you all wanted to decide to get married, right? You would choose to have someone who has received or can prove to you by, it can be paperwork or it can be by oral tradition, that you see and know that they have the credentials to hold sacred vows that you have in place, because marriage is not just a spiritual union, but is also a business, right? And so you want to have, if you want to go that route, someone who has the power to do so, to join you all in some type of legal binding along with your spiritual union. Not just auntie who is always going to church and can read what the pastor is going to read to sanction your marriage. There's a reason for that. Same goes for if you are showing up to court, you would like to be in place as the judge, someone who has studied the book of law that you live by, in order to hopefully receive access to how the law is supposed to serve you. So all of these different things are powers bestowed on those who have gone through proper initiations through their life's work. All right. So this is why I want to acknowledge that we spoke about choosing certain systems that you want to be in, regardless of what ideas people have about it. There are systems in place that also allow for a certain level of accountability and safety, which leads to an individual having, or a group or of individuals, right? When I say individual, it's not always singular. So I just want to keep it open that you may or may not be under one person. It's not necessary all the time, right? But they also have the capacity to create sacred space for you. They have the capacity to hold safe space for you as you go through certain rites, rituals that will bestow upon you a certain level of power ignited. Okay? Some of the reasons why people steer away from what are considered proper initiations, or I will say formal initiations, is one that they are very hard. They are very hard. You can ask anyone who has been in a fraternity or a sorority. You can ask anyone who has gone to sit for their PhD or their bar, or has gone to sit for their MCATs. All of these different levels of graduations and these degrees are initiations. And none of them are given to anyone just to be given. They require due diligence, hard work, and a system must be followed. There will always be some nuances along the way, especially when it comes to spirit, that there will be something specific to you that you take with you, and then you can bestow upon another person. But once you receive those certain rights, and you receive in some initiations what is considered ashe, it is that you will be able to have the authority and the capacity to pass on certain things, certain knowledge, certain wisdom, certain tools for individuals who decide to follow. So, I'm always building our conversation. Let me know if you understand it so far, because this is going to turn back around to your new you and what you're building for yourselves under the theme of your chosen spirituality, because we've already identified that for those of you who are following along, you're not just here for the mundane purposes of living as a human being, but you are intertwining, marrying, harmonizing, integrating your spirituality with building your lives that are physical in this realm. You follow? So now, if I lost you, if I lost you, put some twos. If you follow, let me see some ones. Peace, family. Peace, Tyrona. All right. So, your next assignment, besides thumbsing up this video, can I get a thumbs up, y'all? Is a question for you. I have a story that I want to share with y'all so you can have a clear example of what I mean. So I'm going to share the story first. All right. So, growing up as a teenager, I grew up as a vegetarian. All right. So, I grew up a vegetarian under my mother's house, her roof, but nobody else was a vegetarian. Okay. Nobody else. So, that part, plus the fact that I was introduced to a spiritual practice that included animal sacrifice, right? As a teenager, that was one of the scariest questions for someone to ask me. So I was a teenager and I already started wearing what are called elekes. They're blessed beads that are worn by people in various forms of Orisha practice, Santeria, Lukumi. You'll see them in Palo Mayombe, and Ifa, and so on. Okay, so as a teenager, right, somebody would, the conversations would come up about these people. And back then it was like, everything was voodoo. Okay. And as a teenager, for me, for someone to identify or say something was voodoo, it always went back to animal sacrifice. And I felt really insecure about really talking about what I was into, because it was still not cool to, one, be like African, or practice African spirituality, or dress African, or be Rastafarian, or wear locks on your head. And I had all of that going on. Okay. And on top of that, then being Haitian too, shouts out to all my Zoes. Being Haitian was not like popular either. And by default, all Haitians practice voodoo, and all Haitians like had a stigma along with African spirituality, which was still considered voodoo, animal sacrifice. So, and the conversations would come up, and they'll be like, well, you cool. At the time, I was Swift or Chi, and they were like, you cool, Chi. I really like, you just seem to be really spiritual, but at least you don't be doing blood sacrifice, right? So of course, as a teenager, I'm like, I have nothing to say because they already have this judgment about this one aspect of my spirituality that at that time I wasn't sure how to present it. And what ended up happening for me was I found comfort in whoops, I found comfort in describing to them the equivalent between sacrificing an animal for spiritual practices and them eating the same animals on their plates. And I realized only recently, as you're doing this work and I continue to evolve, I realized that back then at that point in time, I was trying to seek a level of validation for something I was agreeing to do because I understood it personally, but I needed for others to receive it in a way that made sense in their world, but it still had a level of seeking some kind of validation, like it was okay for me to do. Do you follow? Do you follow? Do you follow? All right. Let me know because I'm about to have y'all write something really deep for yourselves. Okay? Because I talked about some of these things and being witnessed by a community. And that is across the board. When you're Christian, you get baptized. You do not get baptized by yourself and nobody else there. You do not jump in the pool by yourself and then tell the church that you was baptized. You have to get baptized in front of everyone. And when they say, do you accept Jesus Christ in your life? Everybody needs to see it. And in order for you to receive your paperwork, you have to attend all of your classes and so forth and so forth. There is no skipping certain things, and it's just global. All right. So, in my new revelation of something that I experienced as a child, I started to look at some of the history of global spirituality or systems coming over into the Americas or into spaces where there was not much room for it because there were heavy judgments or prejudices against it. So even the practice of yoga that came over into the United States, a lot of its being spread openly only occurred when they started to juxtapose it to Christianity and show how the practices of Hinduism could look like Christianity, right? Also, it was accepted then as a rebellious form for people who felt very restricted sexually. So they jumped into what was like considered tantra, but with the focus on sexual freedom. But it took away from the wholeness of the practice because it was more so being, it was like trying to fit something into a space that really didn't have space for it because the system itself was seeking some level of validation so it had the keys to the public. Okay? But what I want you to do in your journals as you're working towards your spirituality and what that's going to mean for you as your new selves, I want you to look back at, remember, we're looking at some of the things that we want to shed more light on. Look back at where you're still subtly seeking for some type of validation for what you're choosing to do and be like moving forward. How do you compare where you are to someone else's understanding so that they can receive what it is that you've chosen for yourself? Let me know if you caught that, okay? And if it's a little too complicated, I can repeat it. But let me know if you understand that questionnaire for yourself. Because along the way, you all are going to not only be met with the challenge of trying to explain, okay, good, I will. You are going to be met with the challenge of trying to explain why you're on this journey. What is this journey looking like for you? And the first thing you may try to do is one or two things. Either one, you will try to shut the person up who is asking you questions because you automatically feel like they're attacking you. Or two, you're going to claim that what you are doing or what you're choosing to doing is the same as what someone else is doing so that they can just accept what you're doing. But you may not be aware of the fact that you are seeking a level of validation from them. Do you understand? I'm going to say it one more time. What areas in your choice of being new regarding your spirituality, you're lighting your candles, you're drawing your yantras, you're connecting with whatever deities you choose to connect with. If you've decided to go with a religious system, you're choosing this system because what? And you're going to identify some of those hard points, okay, that differentiate what you were doing before when everybody was cool with you from your old self to what you're doing now. That's different. Be honest with yourself about it and no longer seek the validation of someone to accept and understand where you are now. You follow? All right. I'm going to type my question here. So if you want to go through it, or whoever comes across this video and replay can see the question. What validation, did I spell that incorrectly? Validation, my bad, do you seek for your spirituality? Here's the power in this. Once you recognize this, you will be able to disintegrate some of the cognitive dissonance that you will experience in your own psyche. All right? Here's something for y'all to look up. Cognitive dissonance. Okay? And it has more to do with you trying to introduce new concepts to your psyche than how people really are responding to you. And that's it. That's your next assignment. Preparing you for increased clarity, moving forward into your new lives. Your affirmation for this work is, I rewrite my life as peace, joy, harmony, and prosperity. This is your affirmation for this piece. I rewrite my life as peace, joy, harmony, and prosperity. All right, because you're going to need those things in order to have a successful new you moving forward. Ashe and Ashe. Ashe. All right. So I'm going to let y'all go with that. And I have a lovely surprise that I'll post in HOC because I was in the mood to make some oud. So I will let y'all know what I have for you. And it has everything to do with the Fairy Gang Creed. So I will share that. with you all. Um, if you're in the HOC. And if you're not in the HOC, you know how to contact me. Okay? Don't forget to thumbs up this video. Love, peace, and bliss to your wonderful lives. I love y'all. I'll catch up with y'all later.